All right, a massive new trove of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein has just been unsealed. We're talking millions and millions of pages. So today we're going to break down what's actually inside, what it means, and maybe most importantly, what questions are still left unanswered.
So what's really inside this mountain of information? Let's dive right in. We've gone through the key stuff to try and separate what's real from what's just speculation and really figure out why this specific release is causing such a stir.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to look at the new photos of Prince Andrew, then jump into those revealing email exchanges. After that, we'll touch on Sarah Ferguson's involvement, see what the official investigation says, and finally, try to figure out what it all means.
All right, let's dive into the first section. This is the stuff that's really got everyone talking. A series of newly released photos of Prince Andrew.
Okay, so probably the most startling things in this whole drop are these photos. They seem to show Prince Andrew in, well, a really bizarre and pretty compromising position.
So here are the key details. The images show him kneeling over a woman, who was unidentified, by the way, and fully clothed. In a couple of the pictures, he's actually touching her stomach. In another one, he's staring right at the camera. But, and this is absolutely crucial, the files give us zero context. We don't know when, we don't know where, we don't know why. And that ambiguity, that's a huge part of the story.
Okay, so the photos are definitely shocking, but like we just said, they're missing all that crucial context. The written evidence, though, that's where things start to build a much more detailed picture. Let's get into the private emails, because they really shed some new light on Epstein's relationships with some very high-profile people.
Now, to really understand why these emails are so important, the timeline is everything, right? So Epstein gets convicted back in 2008. He finishes his sentence in July of 2010. And then, just 1 month later, 1 month, these email exchanges kick off with an account called simply The Duke.
So it all kicks off in August 2010. Epstein sends a message that basically makes him sound like a social fixer for his friend. And the reply from the Duke comes back pretty much immediately. It's very receptive, which seems to suggest, that there was already this level of trust and communication between them.
Fast forward a month later, and the offer gets way more explicit. We're talking about a direct invitation to Buckingham Palace with a big emphasis on privacy. And it's signed with the initial A.
And Epstein's reply? It's short, it's enthusiastic, and it seems to confirm the location, complete with a typo. BB, please.
Okay, now this is a really important point. While these emails clearly show a friendly relationship was still going on after Epstein's conviction, the source material itself notes that the content of these emails doesn't actually indicate any wrongdoing.
And, Prince Andrew wasn't the only royal in Epstein's inbox. The documents also pull back the curtain on a really warm and honestly surprisingly personal friendship with his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson. I mean, the warmth of their friendship here is pretty undeniable. But what's really worth noting is the date on this email, April 2009. That's while Epstein was still under house arrest serving his sentence.
And later that same year, the language gets even more intimate. It really paints a picture of this deeply personal, very supportive friendship.
And again, just like with the other emails, it's important to state what the source says. This correspondence shows a close friendship, for sure, but it doesn't contain any evidence of illegal behavior.
So we've got these strange photos and these friendly emails. But what does all this mean from a legal standpoint? Let's take a look at what the authorities have said and the official investigation into Prince Andrew's role.
And this comparison really shows you the nuance of the whole situation. On one hand, a 2020 request from U.S. authorities makes it clear they believed he may have been a witness to and/or participant in what was going on. They even said evidence suggested he knew Ghislaine Maxwell was recruiting females. But, and this is a huge but, on the other hand, the very same document states he was not presently a target of the investigation and that they hadn't gathered any evidence that he'd committed any crime under U.S. law.
And through all of this, for years now, Prince Andrew's own position has been completely consistent. He has repeatedly denied all wrongdoing. He stated that he did not see, witness, or suspect any behavior of an illegal nature, and he has always maintained that he never even met Virginia Giuffre, even though he paid her a financial settlement in 2022 to end a civil claim. All right, so we've looked at the photos, we've read the emails, and we've seen the official legal perspective. So what does it all mean? What's the big takeaway from this latest release? Let's pull it all together. First, just to give you a sense of the sheer scale of what we're talking about, 180,000. That's how many images and videos are in this latest release. And that's on top of more than 3 million pages of documents. It is just a massive, massive amount of material.
So here's the bottom line. These new files absolutely add more color and more detail. They show us these new, weird photos that, again, have no context. They confirm that friendly relationships with Epstein and with Sarah Ferguson continued well after his conviction, but, and this is key, it doesn't fundamentally change the legal situation as it stands now. U.S. authorities still saw him as a potential witness, not a criminal target. And we have to remember, so many of these millions of documents are still heavily, heavily redacted.
And that really leaves us with this final big question, right? Even with millions of pages released to the public, what really still remains unanswered? Between the heavy redactions and the complete lack of context for some of the most startling evidence, it seems pretty clear that the full story, well, it's probably still a long way from being told.